from the Presidential Palace, Manila, Dateline Malacañang.
Good day. This is Dateline Malacañang and here are the news. Philippine President Ferdinand R. Marcos Jr. said on Wednesday that enhanced Defense Cooperation Agreement or EDCA sites across the country would be activated for relief and rescue operations in areas affected by Tropical Storm Christine. Speaking to reporters after presiding over a situation briefing at Camp Aguinaldo in Quezon City, the president said the EDCA sites would be used in airlifting relief goods, personnel, and equipment, especially in areas with unpassable road networks. The chief executive said Region 5 or the Bicol region was devastated by Christine and needs assistance, but the help will get there as soon as the weather clears. Signed in 2014, the EDCA provides for Filipino and American soldiers to train together and allows the U.S. to build facilities and pre-position supplies and equipment inside strategically located bases in the country. There are currently 9 EDCA sites across the country, namely the Cesar Basa Air Base in Florida Blanca, Pampanga, Fort Magsaysay Military Reservation in Nueva Ecija, Lumbia Airport in Cagayan de Oro, Antonio Bautista Air Base in Puerto Princesa, Palawan, Benito Ebuen Air Base in Cebu, Naval Base Camilo Osias in Santa Ana, Cagayan, Lalo Airport in Lalo, Cagayan, Camp Melchor de la Cruz in Gamu, Isabela, and Balabac Island in Palawan.
Right now, it's really Region 5 that was hit first at saka mabigat. Unfortunately, Region 5 was almost periphery. Hanggang nasa gilid na nung coverage area ng storm. So pagpasok nitong center ng storm, pag-eye of the storm, papasok na sa Northern Luzon, baka maging masyadong mabigat, kaya kailangan paghandaan na mabuti. And we are doing everything we can to get assistance pre-position. That's always the key. People evacuated properly, get our goods and equipment pre-positioned as close as possible without them having the risk of damage para malapit na sila doon sa area kailangan nilang servisan pagka dumaan na yung bagyo. And that's essentially what we did. And again, we've included all of the different agents. Of course, the NDRMC led by the DND, and they are prepared to provide, number one, from the AFP, airlift, kasi may mga kalsada hindi pa madaanan. And number two, they're continuing with the AFP is also continuing to monitor the situation so that we will be able to activate the EDCA sites which were put there specifically for this purpose.
And you just heard Philippine President Ferdinand R. Marcos Jr.
Dateline Malacañang.
Meanwhile, Malacañang on Wednesday announced the suspension of work in government offices and classes at all levels in Luzon on Thursday due to the expected heavy rains from severe tropical storm Christine. The Office of the Executive Secretary or OES said work in government and classes in schools are ordered suspended on Thursday following the recommendation of the National Disaster Risk Reduction and Management Council or NDRRMC. The NDRMC made the recommendation because of the forecasted continuous heavy rainfall due to severe tropical storm Christine and to aid in the rescue and relief operations of the government. The OES initially announced that only work in government offices and classes in the Bicol region are suspended on Thursday. In its latest statement, the OES said localized cancellation or suspension of classes or work in government offices in other areas may be implemented by their respective local chief executives pursuant to relevant laws, rules, and regulations. It said that suspension of work for private companies and offices is left to the discretion of their respective heads. It also added that agencies involved in the delivery of basic and health services, preparedness, response to disasters and calamities, and/or the performance of other vital services are hereby directed to continue their operations and render the necessary services. The Philippine Atmospheric Geophysical and Astronomical Services Administration or PAGASA said the typhoon made landfall over Divilacan, Isabela Province on Wednesday evening and forecasted to exit the Philippine Area of Responsibility or PAR by Friday evening.
Dateline Malacañang.
Philippine Department of National Defense or DND Secretary Gilberto Teodoro Jr. on Wednesday urged areas not affected by severe tropical storm Christine to clear highways within their jurisdiction to ensure the smooth flow of relief aid to areas devastated by the storm. During the National Disaster Risk Reduction and Management Council or NDRMC meeting presided by Philippine President Ferdinand R. Marcos Jr. in Camp Aguinaldo, Quezon City, Teodoro said that the government has all available resources ready to respond to the current situation, especially as Christine is expected to impact other areas in northern Luzon after making landfall in Isabela. The defense chief, however, added that in the exercise of caution, they are coordinating with Association of Southeast Asian Nations or ASEAN neighbors and have talked with the Singaporean ambassador to marshal their capabilities for airlift and other manpower assistance. Teodoro said the DND is also reaching out to Brunei, Indonesia, and Malaysia, the Philippines' closest neighbors, in addition to other partner nations. Secretary Teodoro said protocols must be established before the actual deployment of military assets, echoing the statement of Armed Forces of the Philippines or AFP Chief General Romeo Bronner Jr., who indicated that multinational coordinating centers would be activated once other countries offer assistance.
Dateline Malacañang.
In a related story, upon the instructions of Philippine President Ferdinand R. Marcos Jr., House Speaker Martin Romualdez on Wednesday said a large-scale relief operation has been launched by the House of Representatives to assist the families severely affected by severe tropical storm Christine. As part of this operation, Romualdez facilitated the request for the immediate release of 390 million pesos in cash aid, which will be distributed to 22 districts affected by the typhoon in the Bicol region, Eastern Visayas, and Mimaropa, as well as through 4 party list representatives. Additionally, House Deputy Secretary General Sophonias Gabonada said the Office of the Speaker and the Tingog party lists are preparing 2,500 relief packs per representative for a total of 62,500 packs worth more than 21 million pesos to be distributed to affected families. Gabonada said a separate relief mission is also being prepared by Ako Bicol Party List Representative Zaldi Co, the chairperson of the House Committee on Appropriations. The 15 million pesos worth of cash assistance per district and party list representatives comes from the Department of Social Welfare and Development or DSWD's assistance to individuals in crisis situation or AICS program. The relief efforts are being coordinated with Tingog Party List, which has been instrumental in providing on-the-ground support for the affected areas. The districts covered by the aid include some of the most affected areas in the Bicol region, Eastern Visayas, Calabarzon, and Mimaropa, where extensive damage to homes, infrastructure, and livelihoods were reported. Gabonada said mechanisms have been set up to ensure that the AIC's funds reach the constituents of the 22 affected districts as quickly and efficiently as possible. Meanwhile, the House Speaker also called on the private sector and non-government organizations to complement the government's efforts. The relief operation is part of the larger response strategy of the Marcos administration to address the immediate and long-term needs of those affected by natural disasters. Romualdez assured that the government would push for sustainable recovery programs to help the affected communities rebuild their lives.
Dateline Malacañang.
In the meantime, the Philippine Department of Trade and Industry, or DTI, said a price freeze on basic necessities is now in place in Albay Province and Magpet in Cotabato after the declaration of a state of calamity due to widespread floods and landslides. In a statement on Wednesday, the DTI Consumer Protection Group reminded the public that when a state of calamity is declared, the Price Act mandates a 60-day automatic price freeze on products such as canned fish, locally manufactured instant noodles, bottled water, bread, processed milk, coffee, candles, laundry soap, detergent, and salt. Other implementing agencies of the Price Act are responsible for ensuring price stability and sufficient supply within their respective jurisdiction. The DTI said that, for instance, the Department of Agriculture, or DA, oversees the prices and supply of rice, corn, cooking oil, fresh, dried, and other marine products, fresh eggs, fresh pork, beef and poultry meat, fresh milk, fresh vegetables, root crops, sugar, and fresh fruits. The Department of Health, or DOH, meanwhile, is responsible for monitoring the prices of essential drugs. The DTI warned that business establishments that will violate the price freeze will face a penalty of imprisonment for a period of 1 year to 10 years or a fine ranging from 5,000 to 1 million pesos or both at the discretion of the court. The price freeze will remain in effect until its designated end date unless lifted sooner by the President. In a statement, DTI Secretary Cristina Roque said the DTI under the Marcos Jr. administration is committed to protecting consumers during this challenging time. Roque added that in close coordination with the Office of the Civil Defense, the agency is prepared to enforce the automatic price freeze that accompanies any state of calamity declaration.
Dateline Malacañang.
Still related to severe tropical storm Christine, the Philippine Department of Social Welfare and Development, or DSWD, reported that a total of 55 million pesos worth of humanitarian assistance was already distributed by the DSWD to provinces affected by severe tropical storm Christine. According to the DSWD, most of the assistance provided by the agency are family food packs, or FFPs. This has been allotted to regions that were severely affected, including the Cagayan Valley, Mimaropa, Bicol region, and 13 other regions. In its progress report released 6 in the morning of October 24th, those affected by the calamity reached over 488,776 families, or equivalent to more than 2.1 million individuals. Around 40,000 families remain in evacuation centers. Meanwhile, the DSWD is asking for additional volunteers for the repacking of FFPs that will be delivered to victims of the wrath of Christine. In an advisory released by the DSWD, they particularly asked for volunteers at the repacking center at the DSWD National Resource Operations Center located at Chapel Road, Barangay 195, Pasay City. To those interested, you can visit the DSWD's social media pages for more information. Volunteers are advised to wear comfortable clothing, shoes, and bring their own water bottle. The DSWD warehouse is currently under replenishment stage to ensure needed FFPs can immediately be sent to their field offices if their supply runs low.
Dateline Malacañang.
In other news, the Philippine Department of Education or DepEd reported around 35,973 schools in 15 regions across the country have been affected by Christine. Based on its latest data, from the said number of the schools affected, 214 schools are being used as evacuation centers while 132 schools were flooded or covered by landslides. According to DepEd, 84 schools were severely damaged while 108 slightly damaged due to the storm. This resulted to 264 million pesos in damages caused by Christine to schools. Meanwhile, around 18 million students and almost 755,000 teachers as well as non-teaching personnel were affected by the calamity.
Dateline Malacañang.
Philippine House Speaker Martin Romualdez on Wednesday attributed the decline in self-rated poverty and hunger in the country to the anti-poverty programs of President Ferdinand R. Marcos Jr. In a news release, Romualdez particularly cited the government's whole-of-government approach to poverty reduction, noting that it is starting to yield results. The latest Tugon ng Masa or TNM survey results from Okta Research showed a 5 percentage point drop for both self-rated poverty and self-rated hunger in the third quarter of this year. Romualdez said reforms and programs being implemented by President Marcos Jr.'s administration are now bearing fruit. The survey showed self-rated poverty declined to 43% or around 11.3 million Filipino families in the third quarter compared to 48% in the previous quarter. This improvement translates to about 1.4 million Filipino families now identifying as not poor. The survey also recorded a decline in self-rated hunger, falling from 16% to 11%, indicating that around 1.3 million families no longer experience hunger. Romualdez said the administration's targeted support programs such as food assistance initiatives and social safety nets have played a key role in reducing poverty. He further highlighted the government's focus on ensuring that no Filipino is left behind, especially during these trying times. Romualdez also commended the government's efforts to address food insecurity, which he said contributed to the reduction of self-rated hunger.
Dateline Malacañang.
In other developments, the Philippines and Italy are working to conclude a defense agreement at the soonest possible time, with hopes to sign it as early as 2025. The Philippine Embassy in Italy said Italian Minister of Defense Guido Crosetto and Philippine Ambassador to Italy Neil Imperial committed to work on the early conclusion of the updated Memorandum of Understanding or MOU on defense cooperation during the latter's courtesy call on October 9th. The deal will replace an already expired MOU. Crosetto said the MOU, once signed, would enable the Italian and Philippine Armed Forces to engage in joint training and education and cooperate on technology transfer. The MOU would also help both sides explore partnerships in the area of defense industry development. Imperial said both governments are now in the final stages of updating the MOU, which he noted could also serve as an operationalization of Italy's Indo-Pacific strategy. During the meeting, both officials had underscored the need for peace and stability in the Indo-Pacific to sustain global growth and prosperity. Crosetto said Italy sees the Indo-Pacific as important as the Mediterranean and stressed the urgency of diffusing tensions in the region to avoid armed conflict. Imperial said Rome is always welcome to conduct freedom of navigation and overflight missions in the South China Sea following similar naval operations by other European countries. He also noted Italy's active engagement with the Philippines, particularly with the recent port calls of its naval vessels in Manila. Last July and August, both countries also participated in the exercise Pitch Black 2024 near Australia, joining Japan, Spain, Papua New Guinea, and Australia.
Dateline Malacañang.
And finally, the last batch of Filipino crew members of the MV Minoan Courage attacked by Houthi rebels arrived safely at the Ninoy Aquino International Airport or NAIA Terminal 3 in Pasay City on Wednesday. The 10 Filipino crew members arrived on Wednesday afternoon via Etihad Airways Flight 424. In a statement, the Department of Migrant Workers or DMW said that all the 21 Filipino seafarers aboard the Greek bulker are now back in the country. In a social media post, the DMW said all of the seafarers are safe and were repatriated through the joint efforts of the DMW and the Overseas Workers Welfare Administration or OWA in coordination with their licensed manning agencies and the ship owner. On October 1st, 2024, MV Minoan Courage was hit by a Houthi missile while traversing the Red Sea. The first batch of 7 seafarers arrived in the country on October 9th, while another batch of 4 crew members arrived on October 13th. The seafarers will undergo psychiatric evaluation. They will receive all the necessary assistance from the DMW Action Fund and OWA.
Dateline Malacañang.
Before we conclude our program, Radyo Pilipinas World Service of the Presidential Broadcast Service is heard over the following shortwave frequencies: 15.640 MHz, 17.820 MHz, and 12.010 MHz. You can also visit our Facebook page and YouTube channel at Radyo Pilipinas World Service. You will be able to hear and view our Filipino and English programs, including news updates here in the Philippines. Kindly subscribe, like, and share our posts as well. And that concludes this edition of Dateline Malacañang for Radyo Pilipinas World Service. This has been Steph Vicente. Good day and stay safe, everyone.
From the Presidential Palace, Manila, Dateline Malacañang.